and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Can I get a motion to approve the?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? There are none. Could I get a motion to approve them as presented?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? If none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Sheriff's report. Welcome, Sheriff.
Sheriff, good morning. It's rare that you're the first one on deck, but this is pretty cool. Welcome aboard.
We definitely appreciate it. That's for sure. So good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Good morning.
So first action, I guess, is going to be our squad cameras and our body worn cameras that we're looking for approval. I believe Tierney is with us on Teams. She is our sales rep for Axon. Also present with me today is Sergeant Doug Rexed to my right. He's been tasked with researching the different mobile video recorders that are available. Our IT director to our left, my left, Amy Mittendorf. She's been instrumental, our law enforcement liaison, researching and trying to find a product that's going to be compatible not only for the sheriff's office, but for all law enforcement in Morrison County. So they've both been involved since the beginning while doing all the researching of the system that we're looking at. So today we're looking to sign a 10-year contract. We're looking for board approval, a 10-year contract with Axon Enterprise Incorporation. This will allow us to move forward on the mobile video recorder project. The project will include not only squad car cameras as mentioned, but as well as body worn cameras. So it's going to align Motley, Piers, Royalton, and our office, Morrison County, to include the City of Little Falls, who did their own, got their own approval last night by the City Council to move forward. So it's going to align all the communities that we serve with not only confidence, transparency, but also accountability, not only of our Morrison County law enforcement officers, but as well as the citizens that we serve. So a little bit of the sequence events which led us here. If you remember back on October 26th, we had a planning meeting. We discussed at length Axon product, kind of what we're looking at purchasing. And then we followed that planning session immediately with an online survey that was available for community members. I think we put it on our Morrison County Facebook page as well as our Morrison County website where community members could kind of click on and take a survey. And then we had our public hearing on December 7th, and of course we did that in accordance with the Minnesota statute. So then we went over our survey results on December 7th, and if everybody remembers right, it was all favorable. All the community comments and the survey was all favorable in support for law enforcement to purchase and to get body-worn cameras. So we just want to stress that this contract's all about community partnership, making sure that all of our agencies are on the same page, making sure that we're utilizing the same product. Every law enforcement agency in Morrison County right now, we back each other up on calls. And by doing that, we want to make sure we're on the same page moving forward, and we believe that having the same system moving forward is imperative as well. So now the big question is, how do we fund this project? And that's kind of what I'm going to get into now. So I see Matt has the page up. If all the commissioners see the same thing, we'll move forward and kind of walk through this. So we're looking at utilizing up to $260,000. Actually, if you look at the total, it's $259,260.62. And we're going to take that money, if approved from our jail program reserve. And of course, that's the revenue that comes from housing out-of-county inmates throughout the years. And I previously earmarked this money because I knew someday this project was gonna come up, and I knew we're gonna have some funds set aside to ensure that we can move forward with this body cameras. So the up to $260,000 be used to pay not only the county's share of this fee, but it will also take care of our small town police departments as well. And of course, that's gonna be Royalton, Motley, and the city of Pierce. And they've been at the table with us as well. They've been supporting this, we've been supporting them. So again, this has just been a community effort. So this will allow all the police departments time to budget and get Morrison County law enforcement locked in on the 2021 prices. So that's why we're moving forward. We have 2021 estimates and prices that if we lock in now, they will honor that. If we don't lock in now before the end of the year, then of course we have to deal with different estimates and prices that obviously go up. So I'll kind of walk through what we're looking at on the page in front of you. So if you see the first line, it says year 1, 2022, and it's listed under funding source on the top line. You'll see $10,000 in the year 2022. What that is we applied for some funding through Sourcewell, and we found out that we were approved as of yesterday. So we were approved for the $10,000. So we're utilizing $10,000 that was already approved through Sourcewell, and we're gonna take $79,753.54 out of our reserve to pay for year 1. And if you kind of look all the way down to the bottom, you'll see the total is $89,753.54. So that's how we're gonna pay it for year 1. Now, you'll notice that utilizing the reserve money not only takes care of the county's portion, but it also covers Pierce, Motley, and Royalton. In other words, they will not have to budget for this or levy any money year 1. Year 2, you'll see it says 2023. We'll be utilizing $89,753.54. That will come again out of our Morrison County Reserve. And again, year 2 will cover not only Morrison County out of that reserve, but it'll cover Pierce, Motley, Royalton. Year 3, you'll see it's the same thing. And then year 4, you'll notice now that we'll have to start levying money. Year 4, we're looking at $72,633.43. That'll be Morrison County Sheriff's Office portion that we'll have to levy, and that'll remain consistent from year 4 through year 10. You'll also see Pierce has its own figure that will remain consistent, as well as Motley and Royalton. So every small town agency, year 4 through 10, will be levying money from year 4 through 10. Now, I just want to note that that's the plan moving forward. However, there may be additional funding available at some point, and there might be other reserve money that I can utilize that will help offset the future spending. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well. And with that, we'll open it up for questions.
How about if I get a motion on
Mr.
that?
Chair, I'm going to move on that.
Second.
We got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Is there any further discussion?
I have a couple.
Go ahead, Mike.
Mr. Chair. So obviously, we're not going to start using budgeting with the levy in year 4. Would it be possible for you, I think it would be a good idea for you to start budgeting with levy dollars in year 2, whether it's a $20,000 levy and the $30,000 the next year. So then that year 4, it isn't such a big hike in your budget. So if that's something you could do, that'd be nice for us. But I'm not telling you that you have to do that. It's just a suggestion maybe that you could do that. And then maybe you don't know this answer either, but it's that $10,000 from Sourcewell. Is that something that possibly we could be using year after year after year?
I think it's something, Commissioner, that we have to apply for. I know different entities from the county can apply as well, but we'll certainly communicate that, and we'll make a push that we're able to, or try to at least put our claim on that money if possible. And then to answer your first question, Commissioner, there's some leftover money from our storage shed project, our public safety annex. I've been working with Steve Messerschmidt with that as well. And with our communication hopefully some of those funds that weren't utilized could be rolled in to help
Very good.
offset the levy as well.
Oh, very good. Thank you for that. And then I just want to say that I'm fully supportive of this for our police officers, not only for their safety but for the counties, holding the criminal accountable instead of, taking the criminal's word over the law enforcement's word. I think in the long run, it's going to help protect the county also.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, I maybe have some more stuff, I don't know, but the very first thing that's come into my mind is obviously funding also. It's a big chunk, there's not a question. But there's an awful lot of fear of the unknown. And part of my fear of the unknown is we don't have a clue what's going to happen next year or the next year or the next year as far as our state legislature is concerned. For all we know, our state legislature next year, this year, I don't have a clue, is going to say, yeah, every law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota needs to have a body cam. And here's this funding dream. We don't know that. That I would anticipate certainly would be applied to what we're talking about today in year 2, 3, 4, whatever. Don't make any difference, but that it would be part of our equation also. So I think that there's always a source well. There's always something that we can go after, whether it's $1 or $1 million. It don't make any difference that there is. I also don't know, and we haven't talked a great deal of any of the, I forgot the three-letter newest COVID funding.
ARP.
ARP. We haven't necessarily dove deep into that. If any of this can be covered under that, and maybe it can be. So, I mean, there could be other ways of doing it. As of this second, Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Commissioner Blaine.
Good morning, Sean. How much jail fund reserve money would be left after the $259,000 withdrawal out of there? What would be left in that account?
1.5 million.
Okay.
Is that your question?
That is my question.
Randy, do you have something?
Yeah, again, just by looking at the numbers, Sheriff, and I see that you're using the 259,000 for not just the city, or for Morrison County, you're using it for the city and the, or not the city, but the other peers, Royalton and them, because that is tax money. They're all involved in that, so I think that's a great deal. Finance question, and maybe this is more on Amy's line. She probably knew maybe this would be coming. Licensing, I always look at that, it's always say, this is it, what it's gonna be. Is there gonna be maintenance? Is there gonna be licensing every year upon the year? And then, as far as these body cams, and I believe we discussed this at the Planning Commission, but for the people out in camera land, what is the replacement on these body cams? So I'll leave it at that. I may have more, Mr. Chair.
So follow up to your first part of your question, the nice part is this is a whole package. So this includes all the licensing, all the software services, all the support, all the warranty, the replacements for the hardware. Every 2.5 years, we get a new body-worn camera, no matter what. And every 5 years, we also get a new squad car camera. And if they break while in the field or in an accident, they will replace them with that warranty. So we do not anticipate any surprises with this contract.
Thank you.
Anything else, Randy?
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Chair.
The question I have, number one, is I agree with Mike, that if we could start levying this out earlier so it's not so much at one time, I would appreciate that. Number two, Highway Patrol hooked up with the same system? Is the Highway Patrol?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
It is,
They-
okay.
They're, I think they're in the testing stages, but it sounds like they're going to be going live probably in February. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They'll actually start implementing January. Troopers here, I think, are scheduled end of January, February. They're gonna do it over a couple-month process.
Okay, and I had another question that I can't remember now, so we will move on unless, go ahead.
Well, Mr. Chair, and maybe that's what you said, but I didn't hear it. State Patrol's going to go with the same name brand, the same brand business that we're talking about here?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing I will add, Mr. Chair, just for the sake of throwing it out on the record, that we did have our attorney review the contract. We had MCIT representative review the contract, as well as Amy through IT, and of course, us in law enforcement, so I wanted to throw that out there as well.
Okay. I'm going to ask mine so I don't forget.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, car replacement or cameras and stuff. I know they're included in this here, but if we didn't do this, we would be replacing all of our car radios and stuff anyway, would we not?
Correct.
So that's money that we would be saving off of this, because that would have to be done anyway.
Correct. We're actually at our end of life with our current system, and that's kind of why we drug our feet a little bit. We're possibly waiting to see if there was going to be a mandate from the state. Our server's at its end of life coming up in October. So we've been planning accordingly, knowing that we're going to have to replace everything. So the timing was perfect. And yes, we're still keeping watch to see if there's any available funds, and if the state does mandate it and/or our legislature comes up with some money set to the side, we're certainly going to ask to get refunded and look for that funding as well.
And I really want to thank you for helping the cities out too to get on board with this. I appreciate that. Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you. And now more for the legal aspect of Sheriff. If I'm a suspect criminal and I'm out and about and you're there, I may be a danger to myself, I may be a danger to you. What can these cameras do as far as, I know with the squad cars, you have the camera inside them, but they're not out, that you can't move them closer or whatever. In this case, in this scenario, and by some thing that you may have to use a weapon or whatever to maybe quiet me down or whatever, will this help that matter if something that would come up?
So, yeah, Commissioner, I think it would certainly help, because you're right. A lot of times we make a traffic stop, or, we're leaving our squad car, we're approaching the vehicle that we pulled over. Or if it's a complaint at a residence, we're walking out of our squad car and going inside a residence. So we're not always visible. Sometimes, most of the time we have audio, but sometimes we can get out of range. As you're aware, these body-worn cameras, everywhere we go, they're going. So hopefully it'll be transparent. It'll show transparency between not only us, but the people that we deal with. And then, of course, if there's multiple officers, you're going to have multiple cameras rolling. You're going to have multiple angles. If it becomes something to deal with specifics and distance, there is a GPS tracking device, not only on the squad car cameras, but as well as the body-worn cameras, which will come in effect after the fact, which will be able to watch the video and watch GPS coordinates as they go about, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. And again, I'm supportive of this, always have been, so again, but thanks for that information.
Commissioner Lemire, did you have a question yet?
You took care of it for me, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
So, Sean, length of the contract is,
10 years.
so we have a 10-year contract, and we have fiscal obligations that run that same length.
Correct.
So I'm just trying to look at from the fiscal lens. So, do we have an idea of shelf life of this technology? So, we're spending basically $100,000 a year on this technology, and backed by a contract over that 10 years. So when we get to the end of 10 years, do we have any expectancy of life left in this technology past the time that we're making payments on this? Or is it that this technology is so new that we can't say that? Or there is an expected amount of life left in that technology that we would have to buy, maybe enter into another contract to support that technology going into the future. And we run into this with other departments, but with utilization of technology here within the organization. So I wanted to see kind of where we're at with this.
I think I'm going to start, and then I'm just going to I'm going to look at my expert to the left here, our IT director, but I can just kind of tell you what we've kind of learned with our past history in law enforcement. When you look at a system, whether it's a records management system, you know, we get this system and there's always advances in technology and it's always making improvements. But the sustainability is around forever. You know, right now I think 2010, we got our RMS system, and here we are today, still utilizing the same system. Our current system for our squad cameras, same thing. I don't know how far back we can go, 2012?
12, I think, maybe sooner.
2012, maybe give or take a couple years, same thing. We go with the system, they keep making advances, and here we are today with the same system. But of course, either products are gonna continue to update and get better, or when it gets to the end of life, that's when we have to be cognizant and just see what else is still available. And with that, if you have anything else to comment.
So with the contract, when we sign it, we are entitled to the newest technology. So every 2.5 years, we will, if there's a new version of camera, we'll get that new version of camera. At the year 10, correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, year 10, we get new squad car cameras, whatever the latest and greatest version of that camera is. If we renew, great, you know, we'll continue the same kind of relationship. If we don't renew, we'll have the latest and greatest at that time, with no support, and then you'll just have to pay as we go. And that'll be for body worn cameras and for the squad cars. So end of the contract, we'll walk away with brand new cameras. Doug, anything to add?
That's correct.
Are you done?
I think so.
Okay, I got two things. In planning session, we talked about cameras would not be on all the time. I mean, if your squad car lights come on, cameras will be on, but if you go in for coffee or you go to visit with people, your cameras aren't necessarily on. Is that correct?
Correct. Policy will dictate all that.
Okay. And also, I think another big factor was if you have to look at film, I think you said you would save a lot of hours because now you've got to look at the whole thing, where here you'll be able to go and pick out spots of it. Am I correct on that?
Only a few minutes.
So what we can do is when the camera is set up with a trigger, whether it be manually turned on, the lights, or if a weapon, service weapon is triggered or a taser is triggered, it captures that and we can go back and look at that. And it'll record, like right now it's 30 seconds before. It doesn't have sound, but it backtracks 30 seconds. We can set it to 5 minutes if we choose to set it 5 minutes before.
Okay.
And then it'll capture everything. The previous stuff will probably not have sound.
Sounds good, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? This roll call, whoa. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchell.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
guys.
As you can
Appreciate
tell,
it.
everybody set
Thanks.
your phone off.
Okay.
I'm trying to get my set in here.
So I think I'll just stay put. We'll get into our monthly report. I do want to recognize Scott McKissick. As everyone's aware, he's been our jail administrator since 2015. Scott has kept our facility up to par. No major issues. He knows the jail inside out probably better than anybody. And, yeah, he's just shy of 39 years of service. So I just want to bring him forward and just make sure that you guys as a board are able to recognize him as well.
Good job, Scotty. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. We just had our last inspection on the 16th of November, and we scored our third 100% in a row. So they will drop us back down to an annual inspection instead of a biannual inspection for the only reason is that I'm retiring. So if the new administrator coming in scores decent on that next inspection, which will be next summer, they will put you straight back to a biannual.
And Scott's last week is gonna be next week, so it's going quick.
We thank you very
Yeah.
much, Scott.
Thank you.
We appreciate
Scotty.
everything you've
Thank you.
done.
Appreciate
You've done a good job all these years. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Scott.
Can we get a photo, gentlemen?
Sure,
Yeah, that'd be
why not?
awesome.
Absolutely.
The question is, does Scott want one?
Yeah, somebody messed with my chair. This too.
No, not mine. Okay.
Scotty. Congratulations, buddy.
Just
Try and center.
right center, somewhere.
Want me to pull these back?
Wait a second, there's 5 of you guys, how can I center?
The sheriff should be here too.
Didn't do my hair this morning.
Me neither. I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, the darker the better.
Sheriff, can you get one with him, please?
Notice how I say no to everyone else?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Nice to meet
Thank you, guys.
Retirement,
Thank you. Thank you, Scotty.
Going away on the 28th.
How do I get this chair? Oh, it does rock, the spring.
Your name's on the back. This is Mike's right here.
This is Mike's.
Mike's, I think.
Yeah, I'm going, what the frick?
They'll get situated.
Playing musical chairs here.
Time, Sean.
Oh, we could feel so much better.
You are both smiling now, so we can move on.
That's fine.
You go ahead, Sean.
We're good.
I'll probably just wait. Do you guys have, my monthly report up?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just scroll down to the photos if you don't mind. So just kind of highlight a couple things that happened in the month of November. We had a chaplaincy pizza fundraiser that was held Sunday, November 28th, and we brought in $5,195. So it was a good deal. A lot of people showed up. It helps when Vikings football isn't at noon or 1 o'clock. But yeah, it was at the VFW in Little Falls, and it was also, we also had a coat drive there too. So just wanted to highlight that. And then the bottom picture was November 26th. We had the Santa Parade in Little Falls, and we just had a little pose with the Little Falls American Legion Color Guard members before the parade started. We'll get into a little bit of our training. So it was a busy month in November. We had, if you go down to the bottom, we had 26 officers attend cold weather shoot and / handgun. And then right underneath, the same 26 officers also did rifle qual as well. So that's just mandated by the Minnesota Post Board. Every 3 years, we're supposed to have 48 credits, and there's some mandated training that we have to do, such as use of force annually, emergency vehicle operations, which is, it used to be every 3 years, but now they give us the option to do every 3 and/or 5 years. Then, of course, we have to qualify with our handgun and rifle. We have to do an inclement weather shoot. And then we have to do a low-light shoot. So what we're doing is trying to kill a couple birds with one stone. November is usually somewhat cold, gets dark sooner. So we do our inclement weather, cold weather shoot, and then we qualify with our handgun and rifle, as well as using our low-light flashlight for these qualification shoots. So that's a little update on that. If we go into our kernel complaints, you'll notice we had 6 DWIs, we had 6 disturbing the peace, which include stalking, disorderly conduct, public nuisance. We had damage to property, which was 10 occurred on private property, 2 occurred on public property. And then you'll see we had 26 thefts, and that included thefts from private yards. 5 of those were gas drive-offs. We had 1 theft from a vehicle and 4 thefts from a person, and the rest were just miscellaneous shoplifting, identity theft, and credit card theft. Any questions on that? Traffic citations, we had 186 for the month of November. You'll notice we had 115 verbal warnings on the bottom, 20 written warnings, and 23 speed citations were issued. If you look at our two-year comparison, our total number of complaints did go up a little bit from 2021 versus 2020. Pretty much everything across the board, total complaints, criminal complaints, non-criminal, civil process, drug investigations, and inmates have all gone up. If we move over to our jail, you'll see we averaged 31 inmates. We did house Beltrami County inmates, so we averaged 3 for the month of November, which gave us a total inmate count of 34 for an average. And then I'll just highlight our out-of-county inmates. We held 7 for the month of November, which brought in revenue of boarding out-of-county inmates of $5,230. With that, I'll open it up if there's any questions.
You did the chaplain thing, how much money brought in. What do we pay the chaplain out of our funds? Does he get a salary? Somebody asked me that. Do we give him a car, do we not?
So he gets a squad car per se without the emergency lighting. He gets a gas card. He does get a budget from Morrison County. Off the top of my head, I'm not exactly sure how much money that is, but he gets a portion of the budget from the county, and then the remaining of his budget, he has to fundraise.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Sean? If not, we thank you very much.
Appreciate it, and
Thank you, Sheriff.
I know some of the small town chiefs were here as well, and they appreciate it as well, moving forward on the body camera, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Merry
working.
Christmas, Sheriff.
Thank you,
One's
Chief.
still here.
That's
Chief
right,
Mpca.
one's still here. He just wanted to hang out and listen to see how the county board operates a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks, Sheriff.
Merry Christmas.
Next, we'll move on to extension report. Katie, welcome. You guys need a break at all, you okay?
I'm okay, yeah.
Katie, good morning. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Good morning. Happy to be here in person. Thanks for allowing me to join online last time. When you got double meetings on this day, it's a little difficult. So I wanted to start off by mentioning our Morrison County Farm Family of Year, Kelvin and Tammy Baumer. They were supposed to appear back in September. Unfortunately, they had a family tragedy, which did not allow that to occur. But we do want to ensure that we are recognizing them and want to make sure that they are part of this organization. So that moves us into a little bit of farm safety. So making sure that we're continuing to support farm safety. We do have a meeting actually this afternoon for the statewide team on farm safety and potentially bringing that back now that we're able to do a little bit more in-person work, making sure that we have that up and running next summer. Other things that are a little more recent, I guess. In November, I did participate in a Know to Grow workshop, which was specifically for small farmers and local foods producers. So I opened that up. Specifically, Stearns, Benton, and Morrison, but also the rest of the state also had the ability to participate in that. So we focused there on engaging those small farmers and helping them learn how to better market their products. So there's a lot of information there on how to grow a good product and how to provide adequate service, but not so much on, okay, now that you have this great product, how do you go out and sell that? Or how do you be successful at a farmer's market? How do you get into a grocery store? Things along those lines. Coming up here in February, I'll be doing another Gardening from the Ground Up series. So that was started in 2020. Because we saw a lot of people that were getting back into gardening with the food supply shortages, and they had a lot of questions on kind of your basic gardening. How do I start a garden? How do I successfully start seeds? So we started this Back to the Basics class, and so we'll be in our third iteration in 2022, and we'll be talking about how environmental factors affect nutrient management, building a resilient garden. So as you guys are all aware, we had a really bad drought in 2021. And if we're looking at how do we build a garden that's going to be able to sustain severe weather, so whether it is a ton of rain in 2019 or a severe drought in 2021, how do we build a resilient garden to work around that? On Thursday, our session is how not to kill your tree. So we get a lot of questions from people on trees that are dying, especially with this severe drought. Trees tend to show that stress about 5 years from now. So especially if those mature trees and young trees weren't watered, we are going to be seeing some issues with that. And then the final session in that series will be app-free insect identification. So working with people on how to actually identify insects and identifying those beneficial insects versus harmful insects. So that's kind of what's coming up from my side of things. If you guys have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Does anybody have any questions for Katie?
Okay.
I don't.
If I make one comment, again, I learned this as of Friday about oak wilt.
Yes.
Okay, again, that's kind of starting to come into Morrison County, if I may, Mr. Chair. The biggest sign, people are having a hard time distinguishing between the drought and the oak wilt. And they says, well, oak wilt, green leaves, you'll have green leaves on the ground. That's what they, and hopefully you can verify that, because that's what I was told by Soil and Water, that green leaves will be the biggest way to tell if you have oak wilt. Or
Sort of.
Sort of.
So
All
the
right.
green leaves, and they'll have some brown edging, so it's a very specific pattern that we look for in oak wilt. If you have oak trees on your property, the best thing that you can do is avoid pruning from about April to October. So if you have an oak tree, do not prune during that time. You get into October, you're safe to prune until about February, March timeframe. The earlier in that winter timeframe, the better, because then the tree will have time to heal.
And one more question, this is pertaining to what's coming up at the land services. To transport oak, when is the best time, when is not the best time?
If you have oak wilt, I would not transport your oak trees.
But if you don't
period.
know it,
If you do not know it, again, during the winter time, so from about mid-October through February, March timeframe is going to be the safest. There's also a process in how to store potentially oak wilt infected wood to suffocate out that virus. And so we have all of that on the extension website, and it involves some plastic covering and tarping and things like that. And then you can also get your oak tested for oak wilt, so you can find out if you actually have oak wilt. The other way to know if you have a red oak tree, oak wilt is going to kill that red oak tree in about 3 to 4 months, whereas a white oak tree, it could take up to 7 years. So you could do some testing to find out if you actually are infected with oak wilt, and then you would know.
thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, where I live is all trees, all oak trees. So I have a tree, I'm just making this up.
Okay.
I have one that's got oak wilt.
Okay.
There's no fixing, is there?
No, but there is a way to prevent spread.
Okay.
So oak wilt spreads by a couple of different methods. There is an insect that spreads the oak wilt, and that is why we don't want to prune during oak wilt season, because when that insect is active, it's a little beetle, and it will go after that oak wilt tree, and then it will go over to a healthy tree and walk its little feet on it, and then that tree now has the disease as well. The other way that oak wilt spreads is through touching roots under the ground. So if you have an oak tree and then right next to it is another oak tree, those roots are all intermingled below the surface, and that oak wilt will pass from root to root. And so one of the ways that we avoid spreading oak wilt is actually a deep cutting system that cuts off the root supply. So this works, you have to pay for the service or purchase the equipment or rent the equipment in order to do this. But it works really well if you have one oak tree that's infected, but then you have a bunch of other oak trees that are about 50 feet out or so, that you can cut off that root supply and hopefully save the rest of your oak trees, especially if it's kind of on the edge of a woods and you don't want to lose that entire woods.
Sure. Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to choke you up, Commissioner Blaine.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks for your guys'
Thanks,
support.
Katie. Have a good
Thank you.
Christmas and stuff.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas to you.
Next, social service report, Brad. And Jeff.
Morning, Brad. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
All right, today we are here to talk a little bit about chemical dependency service. Again, it's another critical function that we provide both for our residents as well as some across a couple of our units. So I'll turn it over to Jeff.
Yes, good morning. As you can see, the primary purpose of our chemical dependency program within social services is to provide chemical dependency assessments for residents that are wanting that assessment. Now, as we know, some are told they need it, but we do have some that really want to gain access to treatment, and that is the primary purpose for the assessment, is to determine what route of treatment is needed, whether that's residential, where they go to a setting, or outpatient, where they can remain living in the community, go a couple times a week, or whatever the course of action is determined. We have maintained a good amount of assessments over the past several years, as can be seen. There was a significant jump back in 2019, and that was in direct correlation to our comprehensive jail social worker that provides great collaboration with our jail to provide chemical dependency assessments up in jail for those individuals. Because even though they could have court and say, you need to meet with social services before you leave the building, schedule an assessment, a lot of times that didn't happen. And so there are assessors able to go up into the jail to complete that assessment. It's been a great partnership and collaboration. And down below you can see where our funding sources come from to support our chemical dependency program. Now, one of the big things that we are in the midst of, there was a significant legislature change to chemical dependency, substance use disorder reform. It is a multi-year process. Like many things, it was slated to begin a while ago, but due to COVID-19, it got pushed back further and further. And one of the big goals for this reform is to create greater access to individuals, to allow them to be able to choose where they want to access treatment, how they want to go about it. And it is slated to become into effect on July 1st of 2022 with the new fiscal year. We as an agency are going to be needing to explore how this will impact us. One of the big changes, the current assessment is called a Rule 25. And it's going to be changing to a comprehensive assessment. And one of the big requirements for completing a comprehensive assessment is having a LADC, a licensed professional credential to be able to complete that assessment. Thankfully, Morrison County Social Services does have an LADC on staff at this time. So we will be able to continue, unless things change, people leave, but we do have the capacity to complete that moving forward as of July 1st. And then there will be some other services that we would be able to potentially gain revenue on, as far as like treatment coordination, which is facilitating following through after that assessment is completed, making sure referrals, resources are utilized, and peer recovery as well. The next slide, you can see those are our detox costs, what it costs us as a county to have individuals that go to detox. And we have a contracted rate, and that rate has remained stable over the past several years. One of the big components to our chemical dependency program is our drug court. It is a very big partnership between several different agencies, which includes judge, county attorneys, defense counsel, which we just added not that long ago. That component was missing for a while. Probation, us, treatment providers, as well as a drug court coordinator. The main goal for drug court is to prevent recidivism for our individuals that we would see coming through the criminal system time and time again. And it is used for high-risk, high-need offenders who are charged with felony-level controlled substances or other drug-related crimes. We work very well with the other agencies. The treatment providers that are part of our team are Northern Pines and Effective Living Center. And so we typically meet once a week. It requires constant supervision and collaboration. We did undergo a assessment of our drug court this year, which produced results we kind of knew were there, but it's kind of helped to strengthen our team to bring us all together. Right now, I believe we have 14 individuals within our drug court, which is a higher number than what we've had over the past year or two, which is pretty standard for the rest of the state. The numbers for drug court were pretty low. So it's a very good partnership. Like I said before, individuals sometimes don't have a choice on whether or not they want to participate in our chemical dependency program. And a while back, I talked about civil commitments pertaining to mental illness. Similarly, there is a civil commitment for those that are deemed chemically dependent. And they have to meet statutory requirements in order to move forward with that. Pretty much, in essence, they need to be using drugs that impacts their ability to maintain housing, provides a danger to themselves or others, or they're creating other physical problems. It's the same process as a mental illness commitment, where we would receive an examiner's statement in support of commitment for chemical dependency. Our assigned social worker would then go do an interview with the person, collect collateral information. We review it as a team to make sure that it meets statutory levels. It would submit a petition to our county attorney's office, and if the county attorney's office agrees, a petition is submitted. Then that individual is then court ordered to participate in chemical dependency programming, based upon what the recommendations are. And that is, again, for up to 6 months. And at that point, it could either be extended or dismissed based upon how that individual is doing. Our CD commitments have, the numbers have gone down over the years, and that's for CD only. Sometimes individuals are duly committed for both mental illness and chemical dependency. As you can imagine, it's very hard to tease out both of those. What caused one, what is the result of the other? And that is our process for chemical dependency civil commitments. Listing of the top 3 CD diagnoses over the past several years. Methamphetamine is the number one that our chemical dependency assessor diagnoses as the primary drug of choice for individuals. It wanes back and forth a little bit, but that is the primary one that people are needing and seeking assistance for. Anything to add, Brad?
No, again, you can see the 3 main chemicals that people are treated for have remained the same for the last 5 years. Pretty consistent. And going back a little bit too to the direct access, we still are going to have a cost share, so we are required to treat people who need chemical dependency treatment, whether they can afford to or not. So we're not sure yet how that could impact our costs when it comes to direct access, because people can just go and we may not know until they're in the midst of treatment. So a couple impacts it could have. Again, people getting to treatment is important, so we want to make sure they have that availability, but wanting to understand that there is a cost and an expectation.
And we as an agency believe that it's very important for us to continue to provide that option for individuals as the main collaborator with our community partners and a good access point.
Good. Does anybody have any questions? Commissioner Jelinski?
Mr. Chair, I just have one, and that would be, what would happen if we did not have someone that's certified with the
LADC
certification?
Licensed addiction counselor.
Okay, what would happen if we didn't have one?
Then they'd have to go to a provider, and I don't know that they would be able to cover all of the assessments that we've done with the staff that they have. So,
Okay.
because of the change, and we talked to the state about, this could put a kind of a funnel in the system and cause access issues, because if there's not enough people to do comprehensive assessments are not gonna get into treatment. So we do have that luxury right now, knock on wood.
Very good.
And what we've seen before is that people, if they're wanting, if there's gonna be a delay, that's going to make them less likely to follow through with that at that time.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Wincher, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I kind of like facts, and my question would be, is that someone that is court-ordered versus someone that wants to go in, what is the success rate? Do we have data like that? Because to me, I hope you do, because that's more important, because if I'm court-ordered, I'm assuming that 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, that you can look at me and say, yep, you're not doing well or you're doing well, so.
I don't have those numbers, but I do know that it's, when somebody's wanting to gain access to treatment, the likelihood that they're going to be successful is very high. I don't have those numbers offhand, but we agree with that.
So are you starting to collect those numbers about people that are court-ordered, or is that not?
No, there are numbers out there. Overall, I think the average first-time success in treatment is about 33%.
With someone court-ordered?
With anybody. So
Okay.
that's the overall stat.
Right.
Whether you're court-ordered or going voluntarily, there still has to be a willingness to change. And so that's the impact that we don't know, but there are numbers out there that show forced versus voluntary.
Okay, thank you.
I know it's a phrase you probably have all heard, the fake it till you make it. And so somebody who's initial in that stream may not be, they may be just faking it until they make it, so, yeah.
It's hard. I mean, chemical dependency is a very challenging issue for folks, and it's a hard addiction to overcome. And so trying to provide as many supports as we can for those individuals is important. And hopefully at some point they will be able to make the changes necessary to remain sober, but it is very hard. That's why the success rate is around 33%, give or take, for the first time around. And a lot of times the first time around, people don't realize they have a problem. They might have got caught first DUI, doing something foolish, they thought, when in reality, they really did have a problem.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? No, we thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Jeff.
Brad.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you,
Merry
Brad.
Christmas to you both.
Okay, you guys okay?
You okay?
Otherwise,
Okay. Jeff, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
okay, land services.
Till we're done with this one.
Yeah, we'll do it after this one.
After we're done with land
Checking
services.
with you.
After we're done with Amy. We'll probably be done then.
Morning, Amy.
Morning, Amy.
Morning, Amy.
Right, I have a few items for you.
I see that.
All right, so the first one is to consider the interim use permit for Janet Holtz. If you recall, this is to establish a limited rural business, specifically a firewood processing facility. This was recommended by the Planning Commission for approval with 2 conditions. And those conditions were that the interim use permit shall terminate when the applicant no longer owns the property. And the second one is the kiln, wood processing and resulting sawdust and other byproducts must not be located within the shoreland zoned portion of the property.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Blaine, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Is there any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right, the next one, actually, I do need a motion on this one, and I put it as a discussion report, so I just need to correct that.
Okay.
But this is the 2022 Aquatic Invasive Species Plan. This is required by the Department of Natural Resources in conjunction with the funding that we receive on an annual basis. There has been, it's in your packet, so you've hopefully had a chance to review it. Really, the only change was we just updated the charts and the maps and all of that with current information. But the meat of the plan and the goals and objectives have not changed. So I'm just looking for approval of that for submittal
So
to the
moved, Mr.
DNR.
Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
All right, thank you. And the last item I have is the presentation of the 2022-2023 Mpca Feedlot Delegation Agreement. Again, this is an agreement that we enter into with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. It's really our agreement to carry out the delegated feedlot rules on behalf of the state. This was also in your packet. This just requires presentation to you and then evidence that that was presented to you. But this work plan and delegation agreement has already been reviewed by the Mpca and approved for the next year. I will be circling back, probably one of the first board meetings of the year with a recap of land services in general. And I will give you a recap of some of the feedlot activities that have occurred over the last year. But this essentially is really how we're going to approach the delegated work that we have from the state moving forward. This has not changed. If you may recall, we are required to inspect at least 7% of our registered feedlots. And of course, we have agreed to do that. We generally exceed that. But that is agreed to in here. And then also a couple of years ago, we had proposed kind of like a cyclical approach to our inspections to make sure that we were inspecting each and every feedlot on a rotating basis. And so this plan is continuing that long-term inspection plan.
Good.
And that's all I have. And essentially, it's just a presentation unless you have any questions.
I have one, if I may, Mr. Chair. If I'm a egg producer, how often does it kind of revolve to get me inspected?
Yeah, so with one feedlot officer and 612 registered feedlots, it'll take us a while. So it's on a 10-year rotation.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
They may be inspected sooner if they have any construction activity or expansion activity, or we get a complaint, then we would be visiting them sooner.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Amy.
All right, thank
you,
you.
Amy.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Amy.
Christmas.
Thank you,
too.
happy
We're
holidays.
going to take a 5-minute break.
Sure. Why wouldn't we?
That's exactly right. Why wouldn't we?
Usually you guys are sitting here whining.
Oh, yeah. Well, Commissioner O'Meara wasn't crossing his legs yet, so I knew he didn't have to go yet.
Good, how are you? Good. Almost there. They need to sign something on that feedlot?
I suppose.
I remember one year they took that signature right away. Because I missed it the first year, do you remember that? And you're like,
So
you
now
never
I just
sign
need to
it?
show meeting minutes.
Okay, so I wrote that, I've never had to write that before.
Yeah.
Amy presented, so that's gonna be in the minutes.
Yes.
Do you want me to kick it to you so you can see what I wrote?
Yeah. So, so the last page of that AIS plan needs to be signed, and then of course the regular stuff.
Okay,
Thank
then I'll kick you the minutes, thanks Amy.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Mike. Is this your last? No, you've got one more board meeting as chair. On the 30th.
Mr. Chair, would you like me, or Jeffrey, would you like me to bring you a cup of coffee?
No, but I will come, because what I'm gonna do is I'm going to get a refill of water.
Actually, I might be coming to visit your office this afternoon. Dick told me that, Andy said, yeah.
I wanted to mention to you, I haven't forgotten about what we talked about with the board. I just, right now, our sports guy's not there, and I'm having to help with sports right now. So I'm not getting a lot of extra. I just wanted to let you know.
No, my turn's
that,
coming.
I haven't forgotten about it or anything like that. It's
phone, I
still on
always
my
shut my
radar,
phone
yes, and I have a lot of extra time lately.
I should look to see who that was.
I know Michelle.
Take my little boy.
Right.
This is mine.
That one might have-
Yeah, and I'll, like I said, it's
You want another one?
on my radar, but it's, once we get another
I
sports
gotta
guy.
go these are mine. I wonder what happened to mine.
Right now, I'm basically just,
Huh?
and then the rest of it.
You can have mine too.
I don't need it. I just, makes me think of Randy. Yes, yep, thank you.
Thank
Yep.
God, because he was complaining for the last 3 weeks.
I was not. I was not. Don't listen to him.
I can't believe they don't have it done yet.
Oh, I found it.
There you go. Write your name in the damn car. I'm gonna write mine in mine just in case you take one. Mine's dang near full.
Even has a spot. No problem. Name. Feel like I'm in school.
If you get a little bit of amnesia, you'll know who you
Here, we all ready?
are. Yep. Auditor treasurer.
Okay, we'll get started again. Information technology. Amy, welcome.
Hello again.
Good morning again, Amy.
This morning, I am bringing forth the personnel policy changes that we discussed at the November 16th planning session, just seeking approval to implement these starting January 1st. We did send these out to the unions and to the employees to review with a minimum of 10-day review process, and we did not get any feedback. So I am here today to seek approval.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Miss Amy.
Merry Christmas.
Yep, Merry
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Auditor Treasurer, Chelsea. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Chelsea.
This morning I have a familiar face with me today. Chuck is here with Ice Fest, and on your agenda, the first request here is approving the large assembly application for Sunny's Willing Memorial Ice Carousel Extravaganza, also known as Ice Fest, to be held on February 12th and 13th of next year. In the packet, in the large assembly, everything remains the same except for the dates of the event. And I have worked with Chuck, along with the sheriff, on safety measures. And the variance that is in the packet is for the $10,000 bond, which is the same variance request as years prior.
I'll make a motion.
Got a
to approve, Mr.
motion
Chair.
by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Is there any further discussion?
How thick's the ice?
Not thick enough yet. There's a couple of little houses out there, but I don't see no
We'll
vehicles.
pray for
But
some
we got-
cold weather for you.
We got 6, 7 weeks yet, so.
I think the answer to that is not thick enough for me.
And you've been doing a real good job out there. We thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks.
So, okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Chuck.
you. Thank you very
guys.
much.
Thanks very much.
Merry Christmas, Chuck.
That was simple.
Yes, thank you, good to see you.
When we have long discussions, we'll know something went wrong, right?
That's
Yes, there we
right.
go.
We're more prepared every year, that's for sure. Next on the agenda, I have the November cash report for you. This is just a report monthly that you see showing all of our totals within the fund title buckets. And then last but not least, I have a request to pay all of the bills.
Can I get
So
a-
moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner
Second.
Blaine.
Oh, excuse me.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by
Roll
saying.
call.
Oh, that's right, roll call, I'm sorry. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And aye.
Thank you,
Carries, thank
That
you.
was
Have a
painless.
Merry
Thank you. Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
thank you.
Next week, I'm gonna remember that.
You remember it in January.
Next
That's when
month,
you'll
I'm
start.
gonna remember that, yeah.
Morning, Tony.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Tony, Public Works. You know, it snowed every day since we've hired you, I think.
Sometimes it snows in Minnesota.
Yes.
So I have 2 items for you this morning. The first one is a request for resolution supporting a 2026 federal transportation submittal. What this is, they're soliciting for block grant funds or federal funds that help with area transportation projects. We plan on submitting CSAH 46 from CSAH 76 to Trunk Highway 25. It's about a 10-mile stretch there. Last paved in the early to mid-2000s. Part of this is, part of the application is we need some support from the county commissioners in that, excuse me, in that we're required to match funds, in that the actual grant can only produce up to 80% of the funds. It's unlikely that we'd receive that full amount, so we just would like resolution and support from the board in that we'll be able to produce those funds if we were selected.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by
Second.
Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Our second item here is a request for resolution for the solid waste tipping fees and service fees. Per the county ordinance, we need a resolution to adopt these fees. They'll be effective January 1st, 2022. The licensed solid waste hauler fee will be a tipping fee of $38 per ton and a service fee of $27 per ton, at $65 total. And then a self-hauler solid waste tipping fee would be $50 per ton and $37 per ton service fee, for a total of $87 per ton.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Wincher, seconded by Commissioner Blaine. Any further discussion? We had a public hearing on this with all the fees, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, and so, and there was really no comment at that, so.
Correct.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
That's all I have for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Administrators report.
Come, Stevie.
Steve. Yep, you're up, Steve.
Perfect timing, huh?
Perfect timing.
That's how good he is. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
Morning, Steve.
I have a number of items before you this morning. The first one is to approve the 2022 levy of $19,958,529, which is a 2.06% increase over last year's.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a
Mr. Chair.
motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussions?
I just want to say thanks to Steve and thanks to all the department heads for working with us. I think it went smoothly again this year.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, this is roll call. Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And I, and Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, the next item is to approve the 2022 budget of $54,078,418, which is a 0.61% decrease from the previous year. And as you well know, we've met numerous times throughout the year to discuss these levy and budgets, and it's been a good process, so need a motion for that as well.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Blaine.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say that myself and I think the rest of the board recognizes the fiscal responsibility and fiscal accountability of the department heads and the entire staff of the county in bringing forward a budget that actually is a decrease going into 2022. And we understand the importance of this relationship between the board and the department heads and employees of the county, and enjoy this working relationship.
Thank you. Steve, we have a 2.06, but that doesn't include the new construction, does it?
Well, that's just the levy, and when you look at a taxpayer impact, we had new construction of about 1.1%, depending on which one we used, if you remember that one report. So you have an impact of about 1.09, somewhere in there. And it varies depending on which one you use, but we're gonna collect an extra $300,000 in property taxes just by new construction. So
Okay.
how that gets divvied up in that pie,
People always ask that question about how much new construction there was, so I just thought I'd
and
ask.
sometimes, that new construction might settle in one area, one taxing district differently than others, and so, it always makes a difference on where that new construction lies.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. This is roll call. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And I, Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
As you well know, if you set a zero levy and no increases in the schools and the townships and everyone did the same, and you'd think that you'd see a zero increase, well, chances are someone will see an increase and someone will still see a decrease because those market values get adjusted. The state of Minnesota makes us make adjustments, and so those things just happen. So it's never a perfect world when it comes to setting a levy and spreading that out and how it gets divvied out to different jurisdictions. It's always different.
And if
So-
I may, Mr. Chair, Steve, and I know you've answered this question, I think you do a great job, throughout the year keeping us informed, but as far as the citizens of Morrison County, how are we fiscally, financially okay?
As far as Morrison County, we're in excellent financial condition. We're doing really well. I mean, I think we've used our fund balances to our benefit. I think you as a board have been fiscally responsible and created those, and I think we just are in excellent financial health right now.
Good to hear.
I just wanted, there was something said in the paper that the Little Falls City Administrator said that your taxes might go up if the county raises their evaluations. And Steve just hit it right on the head. Those evaluations are dictated by the state of Minnesota, and I just wanted to point that out. That has nothing, it isn't a subjective thing. It's a statute that we have to follow. So if they raise their taxes 6%, it's a 6% increase. It has nothing to do with how we evaluate properties.
I think Commissioner Jelinski and I had this conversation
We
the other day.
did. We did.
What happens a lot of times is, when the values come in and the sales come in and those are evaluated by the state, they may look at a certain jurisdiction and say, gee, the assessor's office is way behind, you gotta increase everything 10%. So across the board, everything goes up 10%. It doesn't necessarily mean that your property should go up 10, but just because
right.
you're in that jurisdiction, the state said yours is going up 10%. And you have the ability, when they send out those notices on your values, if you feel that you are unnecessarily increased for no reason, you need to go in and talk to your local.
Yes, there's a certain dollar amount that they have to be, and we have to be, what, plus or 5%,
Yes.
plus or minus 5% of that number.
Yep.
Or they force us to
Yes.
do it, and we try to get minus the 5% of that number. We try to, within that. So
And
I
the
just thought
unfortunate-
that was, they were pointing the finger in the wrong spot, I
Yeah,
guess. I
and they
wanna say.
do that a lot.
Yeah,
That
they like
happens.
blaming others, and I just wanted to point that out. Maybe this isn't the right place to do it, but I felt this was the right place to do it.
And a lot of times when the economy moves the way it does, sometimes the county's always lagging a little bit behind, and then when it starts to taper off, with values, we're still climbing because we're still catching up, and then vice versa is when we're going down, so. We're never, ever, have the same timing on all this as it goes either, so.
Very good. Thank you for that, Steve.
Yep. All right, the next motion I have, this was something that apparently needed to be added after how many years I've been here. They've never brought this to my attention before, but it all has to do with our debt service. And I'll read this description and how it should be worded in our minutes is, be it further resolved that the county board acknowledges that the debt service levy of $904,531, along with the planned use of excess debt service fund balance, is sufficient to pay the scheduled debt service principal and interest payments for 2022. And we'll need a motion and a little further explanation on that. When we issue debt, we are supposed to issue a levy plus 5% every year to make sure that, for delinquent taxes and different things like that. Well, I monitor this closely enough to know that we never, we levy what we need, and if we have excess fund balance, I'll levy less, depending on where we're at. And so I look at this every single year to make sure that we're covering this, but didn't realize that it needed to be an official motion until this year, and it's like, how many years have I been doing this? The first year they said that we needed to do this, and I never knew that this was a statute requiring us to do this, so.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Blaine, seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion? This is our payment for our building fund, correct?
The debt service on the building,
Yep,
yes.
yep.
That's our only issue that we have outstanding, other than the Rich Prairie, which we don't levy for, that's collected
Right.
through fees.
Any other questions? Is this a roll call vote? Okay. Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries.
All right, and the next item I have is to approve, we approved the budget, which this is included in the budget, but is to approve the 2022 fee schedule. We had a public hearing on this. Had no information, no input into it, so we just need to approve our fee schedule for 2020.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
By saying aye. Opposed, motion carries.
All right, and one other levy-related item is to approve the 2022
Did that need to
final
be a
levy
roll
for the
call?
HRA. Oops, excuse me.
That's a roll call.
Was that a roll call too?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think they're all roll call at this time, huh? Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And aye. Motion carries.
All right, sorry about that.
No,
And
that's
one
my
more
fault.
levy-related is to approve the 2022 final levy for the HRA of $40,000, which is the same as 2021's levy.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Is this roll call? Okay, Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And aye.
All
Motion
right.
carries.
Great. The last item I have is, this is something that comes up fairly quickly at the end of the year, is the IRS sets their per diem rates, and it just got set like yesterday. And so I wanted to bring this before you because there was an increase in the 2022 mileage rate and also increases in the per diem for meals reimbursements. So I basically need a motion to approve the meals and, what's it called, Morrison County Meals and Travel Expense Reimbursement Policy to reflect the changes of breakfast, lunch, and supper from 14 to 16 for breakfast, 20 to 21 for lunch, and 34 to 36 for supper.
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Any further discussions? If not, this is roll call again. Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
And Wilson, aye. Lemire, aye. Wincher, aye. And Jelinski.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
All right, the next item then is in the same RBA here, but a separate motion would be to increase the mileage rate from 56 to 58.5, which is set by the IRS, which we've always followed through the years. Just a motion to approve that as the reimbursement rate for 2022.
So moved, Mr.
Got
Chair.
a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
I think that was a roll call vote.
You think that's roll call too?
Can't hurt.
Okay, Commissioner Lemire, Commissioner Wincher,
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Blaine,
Aye.
and aye.
Yeah, you would be
Motion
spending
carries.
money there, so I guess you'd have to do a roll call.
Better safe than sorry.
Yep,
Yep.
that's fine.
And that is all I have.
Thank you, Steve.
Steve, thank you very kindly. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all of
Merry
you.
Christmas. I'm glad you guys keep me on task with roll calls.
That's what we're here for.
Yes. Administrators report. Matt?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. A few items to discuss today. The first two have to do with the opioid settlement that we discussed at planning session. The first item is to request permission to allow the county to enter a resolution consistent with the rest of the state of Minnesota. The language was provided by AMC that allows us to enter into that settlement with the state.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion on this? Not all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. And the second is then to appoint county representatives as applicable to then file these, the paperwork that goes into the state attorney's office to further the opioid settlement. And primarily it'd be myself and the Health and Human Services Director.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lemire, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Jelinski. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, and the next item is the committee reports and schedules.
Okay. Yeah, what are the dates?
We're gonna do 2 weeks. We're gonna do December 26th through January 8th.
Yeah, really. Commissioner Jelinski, would you mind going first?
I'll go first.
Just 1 second, let me see what,
And here we go. Starting on the 28th, 8:30 in the morning, we have, maybe we don't. Do we have a planning session? No, we don't. Sorry. Sorry, that's one wrong one right off the bat. At 2 o'clock on the 28th, I have a telecommunicators work group conference call. On the 30th, the county board will be meeting for their final meeting of the year. The 28th? That's canceled.
do we have training on Board of Adjustment on the
Or
28th?
did we change it? Did we get a different time?
Starting at 3:30.
Oh, we do. I'm sorry.
Nope,
I have
that's
it
fine.
canceled. I have it crossed out, but at 3:30, that's right. At 3:30 on the 28th, we have a Planning Commission Board of Adjustment training here in this room. Sorry about that. Thank you, Commissioners. On the 3rd, at 6 o'clock, there's a Good Neighbors EMS meeting at the Family Clinic. On the 4th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, there is a county board meeting. At 2 o'clock that afternoon, I have a 911 telecommunicators work group meeting, that's virtual. On the 6th of January, 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting, that's virtual. On the 7th of January, at 8:30 in the morning, we have a TSWAC meeting. And for the record, that's at the landfill. And Mr. Chair, I believe that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Blaine?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. I've got on the 4th, I've got community development meeting at noon at Pine Country Bank. On my calendar here, I've got, let me see, do we have Board of Adjustment on the 28th? No, that's that training.
Yep.
I think you're talking about the 4th.
How about the 4th? Would there
Yeah,
be
the
a
4th,
leeway?
yep, the 4th. I've got that too, Board of Adjustment on the 4th.
Okay.
Is that,
Don't know for sure.
I'll have to find out for you.
okay?
I don't have
That's
that.
just on our calendars. We don't know if we got one.
Yeah, I don't know
Okay.
for sure.
Okay. All right, then that's all I have.
On the 29th, there's a department head meeting. I don't know if anyone said that.
Nope.
And then also on the 29th at 9 o'clock, I have my HRA meeting at HRA. And that's all I got to add.
Okay, Commissioner Wincher.
And just to verify, the board meeting, is that on the 30th or the 31st?
30th.
The 30th, okay. Normally, okay, all right, so otherwise, I'm good.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask,
Yes.
does everybody have it on their calendars that on the 4th we have a planning commission meeting? I don't have that on my calendar.
We haven't been
It hasn't
notified
been
yet.
confirmed.
Yeah.
Mine must be one of those automatic. I got
That's
Board
what
of
I'm saying. I don't have that.
Board of Adjustment on the 4th,
Okay,
so.
very good, not a problem.
All right, do we have anything else?
One thing, Mr. Chair,
Zelinski did his, Lemire did his, everybody did theirs.
So can I'd just like to ask a question, Mr. Chair, for my scheduling on the 30th. Is our board meeting on the 30th, is that a lengthy board meeting that morning? That's relatively a really short.
That's usually paying the bills, more or less.
Okay,
Is that all you got?
that's all I have.
Okay, does anybody have anything else? Otherwise, could I get a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair.
Oh, hold it. Matt, you have more?
Just one update to the board members. On Saturday, I received that email from the AMC and Mpca in reference to the state's OSHA requirements and the emergency temporary standard of vaccination and testing as it pertains to COVID. I sent that note out, or yesterday I received an update that Minnesota OSHA does not have a timeline in place for adopting or implementing the federal ETS, nor does it have an estimate of when that decision will be made.
And the follow-up, I believe, didn't OSHA just put that down to February 1st now? They just extended it? Do
So
you want to
the-
verify that for if there's going to be a requirement?
The two timelines that were presented from the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals was January 10th, was that you understand the vaccination status of your employees and that you implement a mask wear for those that are unvaccinated, and by February 9th, that you implement testing standards. And that's what came from federal courts.
That might change yet by that time, so who knows? We just got to be prepared, and I think you guys kind of are. You've discussed that, what we're going to do. Okay. Does anybody have anything else?
Just, I'm going to add to that if I could, Mr.
Yes.
Chair. So if they implement testing, how is the fiscal responsibility of that taken care of? The federal government reimburse us?
So
or
not
just-
not defined right now, Mr. Chair.
Most likely, business required payment.
Say that again,
In
Brad?
other words, we got to pay for it.
Most likely it'll be us to pay for the testing. but
Okay.
Yet to be determined how OSHA will make that decision.
Because that isn't cheap.
And you can't use ARP funds for that either, or the COVID money that we receive from public.
Really?
Right,
So they're forcing our hand, their hand to force our hand. Okay, thank you, Brad.
So, oh, you know what, now I'm gonna, so
ahead.
do we have to show proof that you're vaccinated? You know, again, that
Yep.
becomes a legal issue because, you know, of our rights and all that, so I guess, is that gonna be,
Yes, you have to.
so,
Yeah, he
You
knows.
have to prove that you're vaccinated. Otherwise, if you can't provide proof, then you have to be tested. And wear a mask.
I think that's where the courts have been fighting right now, huh? And that's kind of what's been the delays and stuff, so why don't we just wait till we know what the final results are, then we can talk about whatever we have to
Want to
do,
get everybody.
instead of getting everybody worked up, so. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Got a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, seconded by Commissioner Wincher. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Merry Christmas,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Hey, let's get a